Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for another little update on the Bloodsword computer game. We have two things from the developer today. First off, we have a general update about putting all the pieces together, getting the menus working and stuff like that. And then a questions and answers thread on the forum, which I'll also address. I'll just read it out to you in case you haven't seen it yet, Might be something interesting there for you, okay? So, let's see. Mini devlog 1. Alright. I'm writing this on a hot July day, sipping a cup of slightly overbrewed coffee at my desk. In just a day, I'm off on a short vacation with my family. The kind of trip where you need another day or two to recover once you're back. But before I disappear into the dungeons beneath our mountains and offline, I wanted to share a few thoughts and updates on how Bloodsword is coming along. Excellent. So we got ourselves a nice map here. Oh, that would be the Kingdom of Weird. So the Book 1 stuff is off down here where we see this spire. Excellent stuff. Okay. With the Warrior and Enchanter class spotlights out in the wild, I was tempted to finally unveil the curtain on the grind phase towards release. What is my short-term goal? A playable demo! But not just a short demo, a complete vertical slice, a condensed, honest taste of the full experience. It's got it all. Story, tactical combat, choices that matter, and world exploration. I'll let you see where this is all headed, and more importantly, give me feedback while there's still time to make meaningful changes. This game is going to take years of my life to make and support, dedicated to it full time. Every system, every screen, every spell, it all needs to count. So, here we have our four heroes. We have the Warrior, Sage. That's the Trickster. That's not the Enchanter. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that yet. Here we have some text from the adventure. We have a character option for a specific character who adds something to the adventure at this point. The fact that it's grey and in italics means that it's secret, and if this were a multiplayer game, the other players would not see this, and it would be up to this player to disclose to the others that information if they so chose. Okay. I'm not going to read that out to you. I'm sure you can do that for yourselves if you wish. Little things, big feel. I've been doing a lot of polish work today. All menus now animate more smoothly, with curved easing and outing, so they feel snappy and responsive. Story notes now snap together like pieces of parchment, and choices appear step by step like branching thoughts in a living manuscript. So this... Ooh. This not... That's interesting. Here we see 1, 2, 3. When we open the image, we don't get all of it. Interesting. Open image in a new tab. No, okay, yeah, it just weirdly cuts off there. So this is similar to the way that Inkle did it with the sorcery game, where instead of it being pages in a book, things would just attach onto the bottom, and then you'd get your choices staggered off slightly like that. Alright, okay. The world map is alive now. Wind, snow, rain, glowing fires, chimney smoke, the kind of little details that make legend feel like, well, legend. Next up, the sea. I've got my eye on a couple of shaders to bring those waves to life. So, I believe what he's doing here is similar to Inkle again, where you will trace paths on the map in the open world between places. But in the dungeons, you may have a more limited layout. Although the dungeons might also be a top-down representation where you drag to the door you want to go to, All demo items are in now. I'm working on the logic that differentiates identified versus unidentified items. You'll need the Sage's occult lore passive skill to appraise and unlock their full potential. The inventory UI got some love too. slot highlights for better drag and drop feedback, and resizable loot chests that adapt to the amount of gear so the story text doesn't get shoved off screen. Important drag. This is the party battle order. Your 4 heroes get placed in a formation, essentially, of first place, second place, third place, fourth place. I'm not sure which is at the front. Looking at this, left is at the front, right is at the back. So here we would have warrior, sage, that class again, and trickster, I believe. When the party goes into a fight, the heroes are placed in positions based on their battle order. The person at the front is going to be in the most dangerous position. The person at the back is going to be at the safest position most of the time. If you get ambushed, this may be a bit different, right? But generally, the people towards the front of the order begin combat in the more perilous positions, more suitable for the trickster and warrior. The sage is a somewhat good fighter, but actually not quite as tough as the trickster. I don't know, if you're used to playing like Dungeons and Dragons, you're like, cleric, fighter, magic user, thief. The cleric is the best class in the game because it gets the second best health, the second best attack progression, the second best of everything, but so consistently second best of everything that it's actually better overall. I always felt that in Dungeons and Dragons, the best way to fix things would be to swap the health and combat progression of the thief and the cleric. Because that way, the cleric would be your more cloistered cleric who occasionally goes out on adventures, rather than a raging battle cleric crusader. And the thief wouldn't be the squishy wimp that never gets to do anything very useful at high levels, and fails all his skill checks at low levels. But anyway, battle order will matter. And occasionally you'll have something like, this monster will attack the first person in battle order, but you'll have things like they'll occasionally go for someone else, Now that again will be a start of combat thing, not a mid-combat thing. Combat order and other goodies. You can now reorder your party via drag and drop on the battle order screen. Decide who's getting decapitated first and who gets to watch. Victory and defeat screens are in. I've also added a basic intro screen for each act and some developer tools for loading test battles quickly. Still left the quest journal, the scroll map UI, a proper checkpoints window. Once these are done, I'll shift fully to building out combat maps, abilities, and spell systems. And here we have a screen telling us the heroes have been defeated by the demon servitors. I know exactly where that is. That's mid-book 2. And being defeated here would have been really rough, although the heroes seem to have some health left, so... 20. That's not right. The warrior and trickster should have health in multiples of 6, not 5, so that should be 24. They rank 4? Oh, interesting. This demo also doubles as a wishlist push. I'm aiming for a sweet spot of 7,000 wishlists before launch. That's the threshold where this project gets a serious visibility boost from popular upcoming tab on Steam. If you're reading this and excited about what's coming, wishlisting is one of the biggest ways to support the game right now, and blah 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 blah, the usual sort of wrapping things up. Thanks for sticking with me on this journey, for the support, for feedback, for memes, and just being part of it all. Victor, solo dev, coffee addict, and keeper of mysterious dice. Alright, well, we got some nice pictures here to look at. So, I don't think this great sea serpent is going to move on the map, but the water might ripple around it a bit. Same for... Oh, I know what that is. That's really bad news, that is. That is so bad. I do hope that encounter gets serious rebalancing. I'm looking forward to the demo. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see what's going on in this questions and answer thread. We have a lot of questions up here from someone called Klaus, and response here from Victor. Should I give them different voices? Yeah, maybe. Thanks for the thoughtful questions, Klaus. I'll try to answer them as best I can, slightly out of order to keep things flowing. How closely does the game adhere to the original Bloodsword gamebooks? Will fans of the original recognize scenes or locations? It's a very close adaptation. The original text is at the heart of the story. That said, there are rearrangements, a lot of balancing tweaks, and small moments that are rewritten or expanded. It's all in service of better pacing and stronger narrative flow in a video game context. The prose has also been broken into smaller segments with additional choice points woven in, inspired by the masters at Inkle. I'll dive into this technique in a future devlog. On that note, a lot of players feel that Book 1 is a bit weak, doesn't tie into the narrative very much, and Book 2 is really where the story begins. And when, I believe, Dave Morris wrote the novelization of the series, he started at the beginning of Book 2, went back to Book 1, did Book 1, then came back to finish off Book 2 in a sort of... I can't remember exactly how it was done. Actually, I've got a pretty good idea. But there may be something along those lines to get a stronger start to the series. How dynamic are the battles really? Do you have to adjust tactics constantly, or can you get by with one good build? In Acts 1 and 2, things are a bit simpler, so you find a good combo, if you find a good combo, it'll probably carry you for a while. But the real challenge ramps up in Acts 3 and 4, and presumably Act 5, if we're doing all 5 books. Monsters get nastier, tougher, with powerful special attacks and various weaknesses. You'll definitely need to adapt based on the encounter. How important is positioning in the grid system? Are there flanking bonuses or terrain effects in combat? Positioning matters, but it won't be overwhelming. There's no height system, but flanking does provide an advantage. Certain abilities and spells rely on positioning and area targeting. You'll also encounter environmental hazards triggered by skills, traps, slippery zones, barricades, and the like. Are there decisions that will only pay off later, or are the consequences more immediate? Both! There are lots of small-scale choices that shape the current narrative, and others with long-term effects. Each act has good replay value, as some paths and mini-quests are locked behind earlier decisions. It's definitely not trivial to see everything in one go. Are story branches saved so you can replay them later? The game will offer multiple difficulty levels. On the hardest one, you'll only have end-of-act saves and a resume feature. Other modes will offer a mix of save and load checkpoints. Oh, I don't know about checkpoints. Checkpoint saves can be awkward, depending on how well placed the checkpoints are. How many class combinations are possible? Are there hidden builds or unusual synergies? You start with 4 main classes, each with its own skill tree. Over time, characters can branch into any tree they meet the requirements of. I'm hoping this leads to creative builds and unexpected synergies. I also plan to add 2 more trees for a total of 6. And I believe 2 more classes to go with those trees, which is the thing I said I wasn't sure if I was allowed to mention earlier. For those of you who love the Dragon Warriors system, I believe one is the Warlock class, and the other one might be the Assassin class. But I could be mistaken there, right? The artwork we have seen here, we have, not this one, this dark hood, purple hood, not the dark hood of a trickster. I think that looks like some kind of blade or something. And he's also present here. And I think we might have seen this or something like it in an earlier update, which didn't look quite like those. But that's okay. Let's continue. Can you respec your character mid-campaign? Still figuring out the exact approach, but I imagine you'll be able to respec at the end of each act. Interesting. How merciless is permadeath? Is there a story mode, or is this for hardcore players only? There will definitely be a story mode, focused more on choices, atmosphere, and the narrative experience. I hope the tactician difficulty will satisfy hardcore players, though it's not just the fights that make it tough. Resource management plays a huge part. Will your party enter battle rested and warm, or weakened by cold and hunger? Did you prep with warm clothes and food? Can you heal between fights? Or are you being worn down dungeon room by dungeon room? Is your party still 4 strong, or are you already down to 3? All of this adds depth to the challenge. What happens if a hero dies? Does the story change, or does it continue with whoever's left? You continue with the survivors. At certain key points, not too frequent, you'll have the chance to recruit an NPC to replace a fallen companion, but for lost equipment and experience points, well, they'll be gone for good. I imagine, end of each act, although there's certain points, like when the party comes to Crescentium at the beginning of Book 3, where you might be able to recruit someone, you know. Not sure. Oh, I'm not sure if it should be a named character, necessarily, but, you know, members of an organization. There might be a few good points, right? Can fallen heroes be revived, or are they lost forever? There are more ways to resurrect fallen characters in the CRPG than in the original books. It's one of the major changes. In the original books, there were very few ways to restore a fallen character. About 2, I think. How open is the world? Can you backtrack, or are some routes closed off for good? Unlike Fabled Lands, which was pure sandbox, Bloodsword is a story-driven campaign. There are alternate paths and routes, but the structure is more streamlined and purposeful. The story nudges you forward if you survive. How dark is the game's tone? More Dark Souls or classic dark fantasy? I'd say kind of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition, before the Warhammer world got really dark and grim around the time 2nd edition came round. It's fashionable these days to compare everything to Dark Souls, but I'd say Bloodsword leans more into grim medieval fantasy with a touch of high fantasy and a sprinkle of horror. Will there be random encounters or side quests, or is it all about the main story? There'll be side quests and optional stories. Some lead to powerful items, but the trick is figuring out where and when to use them. A legendary item might save you in a critical boss fight, but if it can be used in multiple scenarios, what's the best moment to play that card? I'm thinking exactly of the white orb from Book 2. There's at least 2, maybe even 3 different times it can be used. All of them useful. What's going to be more useful to you in a playthrough? I don't know. Depend on your party, depend on your builds, you know. So yeah, let's get that back up full screen. I'm seeing a lot of possibility here, and a lot of fun. So I'm still excited about this one. Hope you're all interested too. I'll keep you posted of any news and developments, and hopefully we'll get this game in our hands before too long has passed. Alright, thanks a lot, guys. See you all next time.